Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
And now for the next 30 minutes, as the world turns. Brought to you today by Ivory Soap, 99 and... And now for the next 30 minutes, Worry-Free Retirement. Brought to you today by Tony Walker Financial.
Well, as the old saying goes, out with the old and in with the new.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
As a kid growing up in the 60s, one of my most vivid daytime memories was Mom sitting down to religiously watch one of the longest-running soap operas of all time, As the World Turns. Or as I used to say as a kid, The Wild Turns. First aired on CBS in 1956 and concluding its final show in 2010, As the World Turns aired for more than 54 seasons. And while our locally produced TV show, The Worry-Free Retirement, will more than likely never overtake As the World Turns as one of the longest TV shows ever, today we do mark the end of As the World Turns and the continued success of our show, The Worry-Free Retirement, as we celebrate today the recording of our 500th episode, becoming arguably one of the longest-running financial TV shows ever produced. That's right, folks. For more than 10 years, each week, myself and producer Aaron Orender have faithfully shared with you the trials, tribulations, and joys of savers as we teach them how to be more worry-free in retirement by broadcasting our shows via 7 different TV stations throughout the great state of Kentucky and broadcasting into much of southern Indiana. And while all good things must come to an end, great TV shows like this one can be counted on to spring into action to replace that which came to an end. But there's a problem with all good things coming to an end when it involves your money, and that's not having a plan in place to deal with those things which we know are going to come to an end, which in life can have devastating effects on not only your wallet, but what you will one day leave behind to others. Which is why today, I'm going to show you how to properly prepare for all good things coming to an end, and why today can be the beginning of some great things for you and your family. So, let's get started. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, long-standing TV show host, retirement planning specialist, and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we share with you the importance of understanding that all good things must one day come to an end, let me introduce 2 young lads who will surely never stop working hard to produce this show each week, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. So let me set the stage with the recording of our 500th episode of today's show, The Worry-Free Retirement, with this notion that all good things, yes, including a hit soap opera and a financial show featuring a little man in a sweater vest, all one day coming to an end. Whether it's one's youth that one day must come to an end, maybe even it's our working years that must come to an end, or our very lives one day, maybe sooner than you think, all good things must one day come to an end. I know this, for as working in the past 40 years with all these thousands of savers and watching their lives play out and seeing firsthand the idea of dealing with changes that will come our way, sadly, many people I meet, however, forget this and don't realize that these good times will one day end. Many of these folks, the reason they worry so much is because they don't have a financial game plan in place to anticipate these changes and, more importantly, have someone in their corner that knows how to deal with them. But lucky for you, today I'm going to share with you how we at Tony Walker Financial address these changes and how we help savers worry less about money. So stay tuned as we cover the 4 major things that will one day come to an end and how you can be better prepared for them. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back. Did you realize that if you have more than $250,000 in retirement assets, the government could tax as much as 40% of it when you go to take it out? And with current tax rates set to expire in 2025, the taxes you will owe on your 401k could climb even higher. Don't wait until 2025 to see how much Uncle Sam will take of your money. Get a game plan by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to the 500th episode of arguably the longest running financial show on TV, the Worry-Free Retirement. And Tony, first I just want to congratulate you on this huge accomplishment.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for all of your help and for being here to produce all of these 500 episodes. As they say, couldn't have done it without you.
All right, Tony. Now to let our audience know what a huge feat this is to record 500 30-minute episodes of one TV show, I've got a little quiz for you. Are you ready?
Let her rip.
All right. So first off, we've got the hit show starring Alan Alda, MASH. How many episodes do you think MASH had, Tony?
I'm going to say 200.
Ooh, you're close. The correct answer is actually 251 episodes.
Pretty impressive.
Yep. All right, next up, we've got Bonanza. What do you think about that, Tony?
Oh, that thing was on forever. Hop Sing and the gang, probably 650.
Actually, Bonanza only had 431 episodes, so congratulations, you beat Bonanza.
All right.
All right, last up, we've got your favorite Western, The Rifleman. Any idea how many episodes that had?
I don't know. That was a great show. I'm going to say 400.
You're a little off. The Rifleman had 4 seasons, but only 168 episodes.
That's amazing. Didn't realize that. Again, Aaron, and now Derek, thank you all for all of your hard work each week, and let's hope for many more episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement to come. Okay, to help us understand the concept of all good things coming to an end, let's look at our trademarked concept of the 3 halves of life and think through these phases and the things that will have to be changed or will come to an end during your lifetime. Let's start with the first half. Now, this is that phase in life where one might get married, have kids, settle into their first home, get a mortgage, borrow money for cars, maybe have to pay for private school, and just do the best you can at saving a little money for the future. Yet, at this stage, due to the stress and strain of raising a family, there's usually not a lot of attention given to retirement planning, and rightfully so. But then, at some point, all good things must come to an end, and hopefully the kids are almost out of the house, and you move into the next phase of life I call halftime. Now, that's the period of time when you can start to see the light of the day at the end of the tunnel as far as retirement goes. You start to get more serious about it. You start socking away more money into your 401k plan. You start to figure out how to get out of debt. Other than maybe having some children's weddings expenses or something like that, hopefully all these kids are now off the payroll. In other words, halftime is the time you can start really saving and enjoying money before you move into the last half. That's right, the second half. Now, it starts different for different people, but usually this is around age 70 or so, an age when most savers have little to no debt, beginning to travel less and less, maybe starting to spend less money overall because they're falling into what I call the been there, done that craze. And basically, they just realize that life and good health could come to an end at any time. In fact, an older couple once quipped as they were talking about this stage of life of the second half that they were now attending a lot more funerals than they were weddings. So these are the realities of things that come to an end in terms of our lifestyles as we get older. But what about the things that will come to an end with our money. What must we assume when planning for retirement? And what will be those things that will come to an end that will profoundly impact our wallets and what we might one day leave to our loved ones? Well, let's start with the biggest one of them all, and that's these historic low tax rates getting ready to come to an end. They're going to end, folks. And in fact, as we record this show in January of 2024, we now enjoy some of the lowest tax rates in history. In fact, look at what Congress first did back in 1913 and notice that the tax rates back then were 13%. Pretty darn low. But did you realize that for many of you watching this show today, you are in that same tax range of around 12%? The problem is that when these low tax rates expire in the year 2025, and with our nation's debt spiraling out of control, most people who know something about economics, including this little man in a sweater vest, agree that taxes will have to be increased if we're going to figure out how to tackle our nation's debt. Which begs the question, do you have a plan in place between now and 2025 to take advantage of these low tax rates? Yes or no? Well, if the answer is no, we need to talk. Okay, let's go on to the second thing that's going to have to end, and that's these high interest rates offered by bank CDs and multi-year guaranteed annuities. These are no risk, and they have some great interest rates, some of the highest rates I've seen in more than 20 years. But again, folks, these rates will come to an end. In fact, they're already starting to go down. So the question is, do you have a plan in place, yes or no, to take advantage of these high savings rates that are available to you? Number 3, the high-flying stock market. And while I agree that over the long term, yes, the stock market has always gone up, over the long term, it always also goes down. But that's fine if you're not in retirement for the market to crash. But what if you're retired or nearing retirement? And assuming you don't want to lose a bunch of money and you're wanting to enjoy the money you've saved, well, folks, this nice stock market run, when it comes to an end, could be the end of your worry-free retirement. So let us show you at Tony Walker Financial how to build out a retirement plan, how to minimize some of this risk of the stock market, and get a game plan in place now. Finally, the number 4 thing that will for sure, most definitely come to an end, that's right, our very lives. That's right, folks. I know some of you don't like to talk about it, but there is one thing and one thing for certain that is going to end, and that's our life. We are all going to die. And as I expressed in my best-selling book, Live Well, Die Broke, when you and I die, what we have stockpiled must be left to others who may or may not take care of this money the way we would have. So the question, what are you doing now to plan for the inevitable? Do you have a will? Have you updated all of your beneficiaries on your life insurance and retirement assets? Have you considered giving money to kids and grandkids now instead of waiting till one day you croak? And finally, have you even considered the amount of taxes your adult children will owe on that tax-infested 401k or IRA when you die? Well, let me suggest this. Let's talk to see if we can help you deal with all 4 of these items and get a game plan in place that's easy to understand, simple to follow, and comes with a retirement planning firm who currently takes care of over 3,000 savers just like you. To talk to me free, it's easy. It's called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's what you do. You're going to log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that little red box, and we will arrange that free phone call with you and myself. Then, if it warrants, if we think we can be of help, we're going to meet in person at either Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Don't want to go on the internet right now? No problem. Just call the toll-free number on your screen. Okay, when we come back, an interesting Tony in the trenches about this idea of being able to defer taxes, and is deferring taxes on your retirement accounts really a good thing or a bad thing? Stay tuned, we're going to find out. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
And now for the next 30 minutes, Worry-Free Retirement. Brought to you today by Tony Walker Financial.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And as we record our 500th episode of the Worry-Free Retirement, I want to remind you of something that's called our YouTube channel. Now, if you'd like to go back and watch past episodes, all kinds of great video content, all you do is go to youtube.com, put in Tony Walker Financial, and I think you're going to enjoy all of those past episodes, and you can also search by topic. There's another thing you can do. Every week, we have something called an email blast, where our own Trey Jurgens is responsible for this, but he'll send out a weekly email to anybody on our email blast list who would like to see our most updated video. So if you'd like to join that email blast list, we're not going to bug you. We'll just send you an email every week. They're really good videos. Just send it to Trey@TonyWalkerFinancial.com, Trey@TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and make sure we have your email and tell them you want to be on our weekly email blast. Okay, speaking of all good things coming to an end, this Tony in the Trenches demonstrates how those in our industry can oftentimes accidentally mislead savers as to how money really works, and this notion that you can somehow make more money by deferring taxes as if you're never going to have to pay taxes again. So let's take a look at this. It says, Tony, I recently was approached by an advisor who was touting the tax advantages of a tax-deferred annuity currently paying 5% interest, and how that was the equivalent of earning 6.5% in a taxable CD. This seems too good to be true, is it? Well, it is and it isn't. Now, what I did was, this is an accurate statement. There is something called tax equivalent rates of return. We just grabbed this. You can go on the internet and find these. This came from one insurance company. This is accurate, by the way. We're not picking on anybody, but it notices it says compare taxable, tax deferred, and tax free. Those are the three main ways that you can grow money in terms of how things are going to be taxed. So on the surface, if we look at fully taxable, okay, and we're assuming here we've got $100,000 in each of these accounts, we're trying to think through at the end, I think they use 20 years here or whatever, but at the end of a period of time, how much would each account produce after taxes? So Derek will slide down here. They did a nice job of laying this out. See that future account value after tax? Well, obviously under the fully taxable, assuming a 25% tax bracket, notice the after-tax return is 3.8. So the equivalent of that is going to have to be about 6.5. You see where we're going with that? Because if you're paying taxes on something, you're going to be pulling that away from the return, which affects your overall future value. Then tax deferred, that would be a tax deferred annuity. It has a little bit more, but notice it's going to be taxed to some degree when you go to pull the money out, which I'm going to share with that how that works in a minute. And then the ultimate is what we call tax-free. Now, this tax-free, you've got to watch a little bit because, yeah, you could go get a muni bond that's tax-free or something like that, but a lot of times they're not paying the same tax rate. This is just a calculator. Then someone might say, yeah, that's why I want a Roth IRA, Tony. I want that Roth because it's completely tax-free, and that would obviously be more than anything I could ever have. Well, in a minute, we're going to find that's not accurate either because you have to calculate the lost opportunity cost on the taxes before it goes in the Roth. So what I thought I would do is just kind of mosey over here to the whiteboard. Okay, now this is going to be very interesting. We're going to compare tax deferred versus taxable, and under the same circumstances, we're acting like we're in a laboratory here. Given the same circumstances, is there any tax savings to deferring taxes now versus paying them today? So let's take this example. The present value of our calculation is $200,000. That's what somebody has today, all right? We're imagining that in each instance, tax deferred and taxable, each category is going to earn 5%. We're going to wait to see in 20 years what this would be left if we just compound the interest, and we're going to assume each person is in a 30% tax bracket. So let's imagine You have the present value here of each of these. We're starting off out of the gates at the same amount, $200,000 each, at 5% interest. You would think, right, in the tax deferred, you'd have much more than the taxable. Well, let's take a bank CD. Most people don't literally pull out money to pay the tax like our last chart showed. That's not how they do that. Most people let the bank CD interest compound, and when they get a 1099 at the end of the year for the interest, they just pay it out of pocket, all right? But the account continues to compound. In fact, based on this, I'll round it off a little bit. Ironically, in 20 years, and this should be obvious, they both earn 5%, so they're both worth, the future value of each of these is $530,000. But you're saying, Tony, but what are all the tax savings? Well, it doesn't matter. If we go out here and we compound this out, if you were to liquidate a tax-deferred annuity, all of that gain is taxed as ordinary income, which means you're going to have to pay about $99,000 in taxes. You with me? So we let the accumulation of the annuity defer. We yank it all out, assuming a 30% bracket, we're going to owe $99,000 in taxes. Well, the CD, there would be no taxes. However, we had to pay taxes each year, right? Because that interest hit our tax return, had to pay the tax. If you add all that tax up, ironically, it's the same amount of taxes. So you say, but Tony, this doesn't make any sense, this tax equivalent thing and saving all this money. I don't see any tax savings. Well, the tax savings is not what you're saving. What you're saving is something called opportunity cost. You see, this is what most people don't understand. You have to understand that everything comes with a cost. The real cost is when you don't take the money out of your IRA out of your CD to pay the tax, you got to take it out of pocket. So based on 5%, that means your opportunity cost is roughly of this $52,000, which is a real cost. So basically, it was the taxes you had to pay now from another source at 5% that cost you money. But you know what? What could happen is, what if this went to 40% and you've already paid the taxes? You may come out ahead just paying the taxes now. You're hoping with tax deferred that either you have a strategy in place to minimize those taxes, or the idea is you're in a lower bracket down the road to effectively save taxes and, of course, even more lost opportunity cost. Now, this looks confusing to you. It's really not, because this is all we do. This is why people hire us. We understand money, we understand the real effect of taxes, and we want to put a game plan around your money. So to take advantage of our services, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or simply call the number on your screen. Well, we're going to get into an interesting segment of what the Bible has to say about money. You stay tuned. I got to get another cup of coffee. We'll be right back. Our employee spotlight right now shines on Mr. Timothy T.J. Reagan in our Bowling Green office. How you doing today, T.J.?
Doing well, Tony.
And when did you start with Tony Walker Financial?
Started in February of 22.
22, man, time's flying. And what is your exact role for our clients?
I'm in the tax and income planning department.
And if you had to say what's one thing you've truly enjoyed about working here, what would that be?
You know, I really like getting into the plans and developing those and showing people how they can use their money over their lifetime.
Well, you're doing a great job of it, and I know you are a great resource for our clients with all those tax questions. So thank you for all you do.
Welcome.
As we celebrate this, the recording of our 500th episode of the Worry-Free Retirement, you might wonder why of all topics I chose this one, that one day all good things must come to an end. Well, friend, as a Bible-believing Christian, I see no other more important aspect of life in being prepared for the inevitable, and in the field of retirement planning, these 4 issues we have covered today must be addressed, and addressed with a written plan. Otherwise, without that plan, you will worry, and worse yet, possibly lose out on lots of money that could have easily been kept in your pocket. Yet, of these 4, the one that is the most important, the one we know will happen at some point, that's right, our very lives will one day come to an end. And the question is, are you prepared for that moment? Do you have an updated will? Have you prepaid and pre-planned all of your funeral arrangements? Have you confirmed that the beneficiaries of your life insurance, your annuities, your IRA, and 401k plans are correct? And finally, Have you thought about whether you should give money now to your kids tax-free or leave them money that is full of taxes and saddle them with debt after you're dead and gone? Don't think this is happening? Check out this recent article of what is taking place in our nation's history for the first time ever. That's right. Adult children are now inheriting lots of money, much more money than their parents ever thought to imagine inheriting. I see this play out all the time. In fact, with over 3,000 clients at Tony Walker Financial, and seeing as though half of them are over the age of 65, we personally experience the fact of death and us having to meet with our clients' adult children and watching their reaction of inheriting sometimes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of them, you can tell, have no clue what they're going to do with it and how the taxes are about to eat their proverbial lunches. Worse yet, as the Bible reminds us, assuming you don't have a plan now to deal with the inevitable, as we can see, once we die and leave our assets to others, we must understand that we all lose control over this money and will never truly know if the folks we leave it to are going to take care of it and appreciate it as much as we did. In other words, I think what this wealthy King Solomon is trying to tell us is this: once we're dead and gone, all bets are off on how others are going to use or possibly abuse what we leave them when we die. So here's my thoughts. Do something about it now. Get prepared for the inevitable and stop pretending that the inevitable is not going to happen. Dealing with one's death and what to do with our stuff now versus later is the biggest hurdle of them all. And trying to figure out how to navigate a changing financial environment that generations before never had to face is the ultimate challenge. And while I realize this is a tough subject to deal with, we at Tony Walker Financial are equipped for the task at hand. Not only do you have myself to guide you along the way, someone who has been doing this nearly 40 years and has personally met in person with nearly 20,000 savers, an advisor who is a fiduciary, and personally overseen more than 5,000 written game plans, but you also have a crackerjack team of other salaried fiduciaries and, of course, a wonderfully trained local staff that will carry on long after Tony Walker is unable to do so. So here's my advice. Quit sitting there doing nothing and do the next best thing by speaking to me on the phone to see if we can put a plan in place for you. And we've made this real easy. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. All you got to do to get started is just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that little red box, and we will arrange that phone call. After we talk by phone, if it warrants and I feel like we can help, we're going to meet in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now. TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we've enjoyed being with you today, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement. And thank you again for those of you who have kept up with us and for us enjoying this 500th episode of the Worry-Free Retirement. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you make it a good day.